had from last meeting. Neil, thank you so much for your assistance with the CDFA closeout. I haven't received any feedback yet from CDFA, so I'm assuming no news is good news.
Yes.
Yes. So, speaking of CDFA, it's now the time for me to politely bow out of our current application.
For the wetland?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I thought
What?
it does.
Yes.
No, we met with CDFA,
Yeah.
we discussed that we're in this weird limbo state with them, and that we, don't have the paperwork or commitment from Shaheen yet.
Yeah.
From HUD.
From HUD.
From HUD, correct. Yeah, all of the above. And then we floated the idea, because we don't know the environmental review timeline that HUD will require. We floated the idea of keeping CDFA.
Mhm.
As a backstop?
Yes, and possibly changing the amount, lowering it considerably.
Right.
Yeah,
That did not go well.
no, they didn't say no.
But they saw through us.
Yeah, they immediately asked.
But it's out there.
What?
It's out there, they're aware of it, that could be a possibility.
No, we had originally, they immediately asked about the TIF.
Yeah.
Why should we do it if?
If you need a backstop, why don't you use the TIF?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, this isn't the first time that they've worked with us.
Yeah.
They know all of our tools.
So.
But they
how did
still
we
didn't
leave
say
it?
no.
So how did we leave it?
Marty and I disagree. They still have to be told that we're going with the HUD funds. But
Yeah.
I think you have to wait until we get some kind of communications from them. Is that fair?
Yeah, I agree.
Weren't we gonna ring their bell after this week?
Who's Bill?
Eddie, what's his name?
Ted.
Ted.
Yeah, after this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have that as an update too. I still have not received anything from HUD, for our documentation that we need to fill out and move forward, so, I think this is the second week, and so next week maybe we reach out.
The thing that's happening, Marty and I touched briefly about this yesterday. We thought, we're in great shape, except for we don't know the answer to the environmental. We
Right.
have the budget now, or we will have the budget now as soon as we have the answer to the environmental.
Yeah.
We've got the narrative, we got all the pieces they want. And Peter from VHB has been calling the EPA person that's in charge. The HUD
person.
the HUD environmental person that's in charge of it. And she is not returning his call, primarily because she doesn't even have a project yet. You know?
Okay.
And that's my suspicion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's why we wanna speed it up, because we wanna be able, for Peter to talk to her, and they can make the decision between environmental assessment and, and finding of no significant FONSI.
So we met with the staffer on April 3rd. Now, he told us it was gonna be 4 to 6 weeks. 4 weeks is
4
today.
to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
4
Okay,
weeks is today.
so we'll carry this over. 2 weeks.
It's been 2 months since the legislation.
But she did say because the feds approved a portion of the budget and then 2 weeks later approved the other portion. So even though we were in the first one, she said definitely not starting anything until after the entire budget, so. Though I haven't gotten anything about a press release or
No.
anything yet, so, as soon as I do, you'll all know.
Is this the head office out of Vermont?
No,
Okay.
Yes.
it's the regional office in Boston.
he's literally had a knee transplant last week, but I talked to him yesterday. He's called twice since. She just won't call him back. He suspects that she has no notification of a project code in the system, so she can't charge her time.
Right,
If she can't charge her time, she can't work on it.
right. Right. And we've gotta give him a chance, that's a huge budget, right?
Yeah.
So we gotta give him a chance. Okay, so in the meantime, Marty, would you like to update the group on Mill City Parks plans for Woody River Day?
Yeah, we had our annual meeting the other day. We've hired a second staff person. She's gonna come on in August, which is great. And then the group is going to send an invite to Senator Shaheen for Winter Day weekend. Hoping we can, get her here and do something creative and fun. There's a lot of other discussion on how to memorialize the event or the day, and so that's ongoing. There's no decision made there yet.
So we're gonna try to name something after her?
That came up as a possibility, but I don't think, I'm not sure what they're gonna do. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
was it your,
Yeah, they're still talking about it.
yeah.
There's a lot of other agenda items, so we kind of tabled that until we know if she's gonna be there or not.
Yep.
Deal with it as it comes. When we met with the staffer, 4 weeks ago, he did make mention that she's going to want to celebrate it all concurrently,
Yeah,
most likely at the same event. So,
hopefully it's ours.
so we'll see.
Yeah, I think the celebration is the important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think the plaques and the lot crap, will come later when we open it.
Yeah.
The grand opening is the time for that.
Yeah, that reminds me, I was supposed to connect you to medicine, I'll do that.
Yeah. Everyone else is on standby. Everyone else is on standby for the project. So, they've been noticed about proceeding forward, about the city's procurement process, and I promised when it hits the paper, I'll let them know. But they'll have to rebid like everyone else.
What are you talking?
Coleman.
Construction?
Yeah, okay, so you switched back to something else.
Yeah,
Sorry.
this is what we generally do.
It's really
I'm okay with
important
it.
that you can now retain your engineers
Mm-hmm.
or amend the contract with your engineers.
Yeah.
That should get going.
That's already in process.
Okay,
But we can't finalize it until we know
What we're doing.
about the environmental review.
I thought the environmental review was gonna be separate.
That'll be VHB. That's in their work scope.
Okay,
Yeah. So I'm on it.
and once you're on it, once you sign that, they can start putting together the bid package that will go out to bid for construction. Okay.
All right, so, sorry, we got off track, back to closeout. So the two current land and water conservation fund grants, I just closed out financially with Bill Gagus. I asked him how you say his last name, so Bill Gagus, this week. So he's currently going through those and we'll have a list of questions for us. So that's going on. So he hasn't asked for any other, he said he'd like to do the financial piece first, so I wouldn't work on too much of anything else that you were gonna take on.
Sure.
Until he's
the maps
ready.
and whatnot.
Yeah, the map, yeah, we can work on, but the other, like, touchy-feely report narrative, I forget what they call it, we'll hold off on
Okay.
that. Okay. So I'll let you guys know if there's anything that's needed from any of you on that. Does anybody have
I do. I got a bunch of stuff.
Go.
You can go.
No, go ahead.
We need to, well, first of all, Jim and I and Dan Darling met via Zoom with Molly Donovan of CDFA.
Yep.
She really likes the FDIC application. It's for $120,000 and it's got two pieces to it. The first piece is to build consensus in terms of the Opera House City Hall project. And have a series of community meetings to build consensus around what we should be doing. And the role of FDIC as the sponsor is to be the convener of these community meetings. And I even get the feeling, you were there, but that she gave us one name and she was gonna give us some more names of people that are sort of professional facilitators
Yep.
that could run these things. So, FDIC could even start interviewing some of these folks now. Because, the award isn't gonna be until June, but we don't wanna slow down the whole planning process for the
Exactly.
city.
Yep.
She was very complimentary of the application. I don't see any reason why it won't be funded, but again, we don't know.
So we don't have to sell the tax credits on that one until second year?
Second year, right?
She was gonna send us a name of,
She gave us one name, which was Sue Cagle. She
I've
works for
heard
the
that
extension
before.
service,
Yeah.
and she is working communities where, bringing folks together and stuff. Do you know,
have you worked with her?
I've heard it.
I've heard
Well,
of her too.
Molly worked at UNH Cooperative
Yes.
before,
Yeah,
and she was part of the New Hampshire Listens program that UNH
yeah.
adopted. It's been around for a while.
Yeah.
It works sometimes, it's too touchy-feely, and if there's too much grumbling, the moderators don't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
It kind of just crumbles. That's sort of like more recent experience that I've heard through up here. But yeah, Molly is tied in, she's only been out of the cooperative section for like 2 years at the most, I think. But
So anyway, Molly also was gonna talk to Amy, her boss,
Yep.
give us some names, so we should start talking. We should involve Seth.
But we won't hear until July.
Well, she said June.
Okay.
I have to look at my notes. So that was a very successful, very good meeting. Dan's excited about the process. And he had some good questions, some good input.
Yes. So you said the first thing was to build consensus?
Yeah, and the second thing, year two, is if we're gonna have this revitalized opera house, I don't know what it's gonna look like.
Right.
I'm not gonna presume anything.
That,
Now, if we're gonna have this revitalized opera house, that's gonna have the ability to do more than it's done in the past, additional seating capacity, more backstage rooms, storage rooms, so we can attract more acts. What does that mean to revenues? And what does that mean to the ability of the Opera House to generate some revenues to pay some rent to the city? So the city can have.
So it's really implementation.
So that's implementation. And that means probably what that will end up, will be bringing on another team that will assist the Opera House Board in marketing, booking, I should say.
Booking.
These other shows. A dozen or so other shows a year, as Dan said, it can sell tickets. It can demand ticket prices of $60. Right? So, we'll see how that goes, but that was the second phase.
it doesn't have to follow the flexibility in the timeline comes from selling the tax credits, right? So like you could speed up second year activities in the first year if you pre-sold it.
If we had to, we could.
Yeah,
Do that.
right.
Yeah, we could. The other thing is, right, I need some guidance. We all need some guidance, we need another session of setting priorities. Right now, the big priority is to jump on the hot thing when it's time to jump on the hot thing.
Right.
But we have some stragglers out there. The food co-op,
Yep.
should we be applying for some money for that feasibility study? Left in the dust was the testimonial project,
Yep.
where we were gonna put together a presentation by the folks in Colorado to show what a water park meant to their community. We gotta begin to be looking at, land and water conservation for the land portion, the bike track and all that kind of things, if we're gonna do that. And the final thing, which I think is important, and Jim and I talked a little bit about, is the patient capital piece. My idea is that I would put together a 1 or 2 page sort of summary of what we mean by that. It's really redevelopment capital.
Yep.
And, Jim can edit it, and then, well, the whole group can edit it. And then I would like to convene, I'd like to ask, maybe New Hampshire Business Finance Authority to chair a group, which include themselves, CRDC, Community Loan Fund, who am I missing? CDFA. CDFA had some interest when we were talking to, what's her name there? I can't put.
Mom?
No,
Katie?
no, not Katie, the one we met with regard.
Maureen?
Yeah. And talk to them about maybe they each kick in $125,000 at a line of credit that FBIDC could draw on when it wanted to make a quick decision to buy a property. And hold that property and put it out to bid, out to proposals to attract somebody that was willing to do something that was the highest and best use for the city, rather than making that a property available to just anybody who wants to come in and buy the property and appreciate the hell out of it.
Yep.
So, it's sort of a nonprofit redevelopment authority, so I need some guidance on that, and we need guidance on all these projects, where we're going, what we wanna do.
On kind of a side note, I won't, the assessor that I spoke about previously, in other buildings doing the due diligence for that investor, I saw him again, and he is now like doing more legwork, it seems, for the investor that he came in to ask questions about 79E, and then I started to think about this concept. Right, if this worked, right, and you had that interim renovating entity that did a little bit to put the building over the hump, right, you could disqualify, right, investors that required 79E, and you would be able to get top dollar for the buildings, but you would have to take that active role, right, like, it makes a lot of sense. Right, this is how the city gets not necessarily the highest and best use out of the unit, but the highest and best use from the tax on the
Right.
building.
I mean, you could make a decision through the proposal process, whether or not the city was willing to use site money, or whether or not, for instance, the city would be willing to she can make some improvements, some offset improvements.
Right.
Those kind of.
Right.
Yeah,
And I know it would be a case by case basis depending on the value of the building, but at least instead of waiting,
Yeah.
the city would be in the driver's seat on expanding the tax base actively, rather than waiting for others to do it all the time.
Yeah, I agree.
In that patient capital, do you wanna talk to Brian Bozak too at some point about strategizing?
Brian Bozak.
The new president of
Oh, heck, yes, yes.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
mean, there's, yes, I mean, we haven't, but we should.
yeah.
I mean,
Should
because,
probably be as part of the group that you're putting together.
It could be.
Yeah.
Right, they almost could be lead, where they, where the lines of credit could converge.
Mhm.
that's not a bad idea.
It might be better to meet with him prior to
Yes,
Yeah.
to
yes.
explain what you're trying to do and let
Right.
him, let
He
him
wants to
think
be a
about it
part.
on his own.
I mean, he might just wanna be the first Manager Judie.
Right.
And then we can come in behind him with this, whatever.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Who knows, maybe we should talk.
And if we have, we have to form a redevelopment board.
You don't have to, because you were formed, you. I don't know how you were formed, but FDIC was formed by the statute that is the redevelopment authority statute, but allows the development, the creation of nonprofits. So I don't think you have to do anything,
Okay.
unless there's reasons that we, well,
Is that the end of your list, Neil?
oh, yeah.
Anybody else have anything?
Just real quick, I'm not sure if I told you guys, but on Monday, Judy and I were invited to join the UNH Cooperative Extension's annual Community and Economic Development Division. They have a bunch of cooperative extension divisions, that's one of them. So that division came here to the city for the annual meeting, reserved the library. And we did a walking tour with them. In typical Franklin fashion, we start doing a walking tour, and they said, we'll give you like 45 minutes, like an hour and 20 minutes later, they're like, okay, we want to see more, but we have to get back. So it's encouraging when outsiders come here. We walk around, some of them remember 10 plus years ago doing these charrettes in Franklin for a lifetime. Those members were involved, they're like, oh my gosh, you guys implemented some of it, you're still working on it. So they said, basically, good job, we're looking forward to future successes, we know there's more to do, it's a lot. And then yesterday I was at a regional planning commission meeting for transportation stuff, so it's a TAP meeting, Transportation Advisory Committee. There were about a dozen other community reps there from the 31 district communities. Regional Planning Commission, the executive director, Jeff Hayes, has been there for a handful of years. They've offered someone a job as of like last week, and they're waiting to work out the finance details, but they think they have someone. So he's leaving, and their senior transportation planner is leaving. Senior transportation planner's only been there for like just over 2 years, but he's leaving Friday.
Change it.
Jeff's probably leaving in a couple of weeks, but both of them said that, came up to me and said good luck guys in your next venture, and they said, we're really proud of what Franklin's done in the last handful of years, and, we hope to keep moving forward on that path, and there's a lot of people watching. And that was just work from those two guys at different points. Honestly, Jeff was on the phone, and I talked to Sean in person, so, yeah.
Are they gonna play a role in the traffic study, parking study?
There's some they can do. They can link us up to like potential more funding sources. They don't have a lot of in-house abilities. They can do traffic counts and stuff. If that's necessary, we can pull them on that, which might help out if someone who's doing the job. But it's kind of above them. And with their transportation planner leaving in 2 days, it's just a bad time. They have to
specifically NEMBA and the outing club. They'll be using them as a case study, doing a whole morning of trail building, and then having a few breakout sessions on how to manage volunteers, how to schedule work, a few related items. This is all part of the bird initiative that you brought up last time. And then at the end of the month, they'll have that big meeting, and a bunch of us are going down to Durham to be on the panel.
Real quick, Stanley Mill, we work every other day on it, phone calls with consultants. And I don't know if I told you, but we met with the state, so DES sent their asbestos head honcho here, asbestos division, and then waste management sent 2 reps. So the way it works is there's 2 places in the United States that accept asbestos related construction demo debris. One's in Rochester, and the other one's in like Georgia, something like that.
Wow.
So, and both of those locations get audited by the federal government. Federal government only permits them to accept so much per year, and then they're done. So sometimes contractors sit with projects that are ready to go, but they can't start because they can't haul the stuff. So unfortunately, Waste Management's inching up on, they had a lot of crap hauled to their asbestos this year, more than they expected. It took a bit of conversation, but I think we, just with connections, I worked in Rochester before, helped them with their Waste Management, always doing something, and did a huge expansion while I was there, or permitted it through the planning department. So I think after talking, sort of like connecting on the human side of things, they're like, oh, okay, all right, I think we can push our boss to allow this to happen, we'll bump someone else off the list. But the state DES asbestos is pretty particular, we'll say, about their rules, and they're like, no, everything's gotta go. So the costs are, this is where I'm getting at, the costs are really high for demolition and hauling, and
Everything's gotta go, meaning the bricks and things that
aren't asbestos, because it's difficult, it's so, it's
pores are like in the brick or something.
well, it's the typical asbestos abatement. You get in a building and you clean it all out, you scrape it out, you haul pieces here and there out. Because the building is so unstable, if they start ripping those pieces out, the building's potentially gonna cave in on the workers.
Sure.
That's still being evaluated by there's a couple of the top demo firms looking at it. One thinks they can do it, one's like, we're not going in there. So we started to get a little nervous because we want that property cleaned up 100%. We don't want anything left in the ground. And if we have to rob more money to do the hauling, that means we might have to have some area use restrictions, which just means way deep down in the soil, there might be some whales still. And there'll be a deed restriction on, hey, you can't dig down 10 feet, or if you do, you're in trouble. We don't think we're gonna have to go there, but we're planning for the worst. So Invest New Hampshire, where we got some of the grant money for a couple different parts of this, they have more money in their demo fund, and they're specifically saying, if you have a project that might cost more money, come talk to us. So we're doing that, and we're hopeful, fingers crossed, that they'll give us some more money, so this is a non-issue. We might be like $100,000-$200,000 short.
What's the timing on all this?
So in typical Invest New Hampshire fashion, there's like, it's super wishy-washy, and there's no submittal deadline, there's no response commitment deadline to get back to us, but we think it's gonna happen pretty fast. I think they're looking to get rid of some money fast, because they're up against the clock,
Right.
but they don't wanna say that.
I'm sorry. Right.
No. At some point, we were going to subdivide off the Armory building
Mhm.
and make that a separate project and save that building except for the piece in the back. Has that been integrated to all these plans?
It's always we know that that's the future goal. We're not doing it now because it is one parcel, so if we have any money that can be used on the Armory portion, because it's one parcel in EPA's eyes, we're gonna do it. We're gonna shift over and be like, we're gonna clean up a little extra to the left of standing mill.
Right,
We're gonna wait till the project's done and the money's been spent, and then say, okay, now let's look at separating these lots.
But at this point, they're not touching your own building, except for that lean-to in the back of the house.
Except for only two on the back. And I tossed in there, if we're asking for more money for demolition, let's see if we can get any more money to do maybe demolition or lean-to the left, when you look at the front of the building towards the softball field. But we have to see if that money can be spent to patch up the hole after. It'd be cool. Yeah.
Okay.
so where is the asbestos?
So there's so that Stanley Mill is like 3 different buildings
Yeah,
pieced together. There is some in the Meisen wall in between, so there was like a firewall. It's brick, but it's some of it's in the mortar angle. Some of it's in the window framing.
yeah,
There's some coatings on some pipes in there that are still there. A lot of the pipes are gone. There's an old boiler room that the boiler's gone, but there's pieces of things down there. That's there. The roof coating has some asbestos in it, that's left of the roof. There's holes in the roof, there's screws in the roof. So it's a little bit of everywhere, and that's the problem. They had a couple of cool ideas. These demo guys know what they're doing. And they were pushing the state, hey, if we power wash into the basement's obviously holding water, can we then vac truck out that stuff, filter it into a system? And the states was like, well, we don't typically allow for power washing. It's a great alternative. Asbestos is,
right, it's
you
not
know,
friable if it's
airborne.
wet.
Right, it's not friable if it's wet. So that's like, this is where I was kind of, quite frankly, pardon the language, but pissed. Like, you know, I get a lot of flack for being a bureaucrat and a regulator, but when I hear DES being like, oh, that's not allowed. Well, the hell it isn't. Like, you've got to get creative and say like, okay, well, if it's wet and it's not airborne, it's going in, you treat it a different way. And the guy who pitched the idea, the demo guy, clearly, you know, he played very, very nice, but clearly it was like, that's bullshit. You know, I know this can work. I know it meets all the rules. So we're hopeful that the guy at DES maybe thinks a little bit, but he also threw out a really dumb idea of like, oh, if you want to save money, if you just knock the building into the ground and cover it with dirt, it doesn't leave the site, so therefore you don't have to do, it doesn't cross that line of you need to do something with it, which is the stupidest idea, because whoever ever digs in that, they're gonna instantly have all this asbestos they have to do.
In the air,
Right,
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
right.
right.
I mean, asbestos remediation industry is a joke, you know? So, what you're saying now is that they have to demolish the building without going in and endangering themselves,
Right.
and that pile of rubbish has to all go to a asbestos.
that's worst case scenario. We've been talking weekly with the demo firms, bringing up to speed what we're getting from our environmental people. And they keep coming back and looking at it again and again to get other thoughts. They're both pretty confident that they can take half of the stuff off and it's clean. There's another part of the building that they're like, that's where it's getting sticky with the state. If they let us do some of these things, we can reduce costs and we can separate. But yeah, no, that it's good that they've relooked at it. We work with them, we work with their environmental people, look closer, so at least half of what's there is clean. They can do a little bit of scrubbing or dismantling, take that crap out of it, and then the rest is clean, clean bricks, and that's really easy to get rid of.
Will they recycle the brick?
And the bricks?
Yeah.
Not for like reuse, but what they're considering is it makes a good road aggregate base. So you crush it and you put it underneath as you build. And we, the city of Franklin, actually have stock area for that, and we use that so that if we're now talking and saying, hey, if you get the clean bricks, we might have the spot for you to haul them. That's a lot cheaper of a distance than bringing it up to their offsite site, because it's clean, so it's just hauling cost. And we'll let you dump it, but we're gonna push them and say, how about you crush it, so when we're ready to do our roads, we just sweep it up. Yeah, so we're
Great idea.
working on that.
That's good.
Cool.
So getting back to the timing, it's a definite maybe, I mean,
So, we just had, like, 2 phone calls yesterday, and we're pushing for, we told the contractors, get ready to get your ducks in a row on your paper, put your bids in, because we're hopeful that you can start in June.
wow,
That's aggressive, but we're kind of
Good.
sick of it, and we're gonna push everyone.
Good,
There was a
that'll be huge.
couple thoughts of, well, let's wait until like, September, and we said, no. We said, that's, if at all possible, we're gonna push everyone hard, and we're all on the same page now, so.
Yeah, we have to spend the invest NH money by 12/31.
Yeah.
So,
but that's only a piece of it, right?
push it,
That's
yeah.
only a piece of it.
That's
Yeah.
only a piece of it, but that's gonna be first.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have something done,
Yeah, pretty,
up to that
we're-
dollar amount, which is 418,000.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're on track for that.
okay.
The piece that Schoenberg just reclaimed and
Mhm.
seeded and everything, that's on his property?
Yeah.
That is, yes,
Yeah.
right, exactly, right at the edge of where the new loam is the property line.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
I think that's a dog run,
Yes,
yes.
yeah, I believe so.
Cool.
Interesting.
All right, anything else?
Well, I got two, but one is about a potential private investor.
Okay.
And then the other one is, the master plan that NIMBL wants to work on.
Yes,
Can we schedule them at a meeting here?
sure. I thought we were waiting until July.
I don't remember.
That's what we,
Is that what we said?
that's what we said.
Okay.
It was a July private, cause I'd like to invite a couple of other groups as well. So do you want me to reach out to them with that, or
I can do it.
would you like to?
Whatever you would like. I think the DIRT initiative, ends in May. The foothill meetings are monthly, but I feel like we should try to capitalize while all of those groups are talking consistently.
Yeah.
Right? If we had the meeting here with NEBA, Jada Lindblom from UNH Cooperative Extension,
Yep,
and Aberg, that would be,
and the conservation.
yes, yeah, that would be a great, step in the right direction.
Is this the city's master plan?
No, this is the NEMBA's, well, the project that NEMBA wants to do.
I said, not in my backyard, that's
No.
No, differently.
Wrong acronym. Okay, so, you said UNH, NIMBA, outing
Conservation,
club,
Outing Club.
conservation,
And then, all of those people,
and the foothills and all.
yeah, I would say foothills too, but there's representatives on each one of those groups that are on foothills.
Alright, so you're reaching out to them?
Sure. Can I just extrapolate Thursdays out until then to get a date in July?
Not yet,
Okay, alright.
hold on that thought for a
So
minute.
I need a date from you to reach out to them then.
Okay, hold on that thought. Okay.
Alright.
Jim, did you have anything?
No, just want to get back to the traffic study, where, have we engaged anybody?
No.
We have to do an RFP.
And that's gonna include parking.
That's, yes, that's,
Okay.
put a couple things onto an RFP and see if one firm can do it all, or if they can partner and work together as it's happening.
Okay, cool.
No, but I guess the other one is TAP. Any,
Yeah, TAP is the grant for
The
Crescent
bridge.
Bridge. Yes, there still is work with that. DOT, our contact there, he's different.
Nice to know.
Yeah. So there's a lot of work that has to get done for the next step. I guess the shortest version is DOT did send a letter saying that they're internal advisory board did vote to basically proceed with trying to find the additional fund. So it's not like a strong, like a 100% commitment, sort of what the city council did. And yeah, we'll fund it, we'll try to fund it,
We'll try,
you know.
yeah.
So that's good though, because that's a big step.
Right.
And now it's back in the hands of McFarland and Johnson, and they have to do a bunch of engineering work and cost estimating, and they've been doing it for the last 4 to 6 weeks, but like every 7 days, the DOT's like, hey, where is it? Give it to us now. And they're like, no, we told you it was gonna take 6 weeks. Like, you can't rush this crap, you know?
Right.
So that's the weird part. What, I don't know what the rush is. They don't have the money yet at the DOT anyways. It's still turning through all their stuff, but we're working on it. I've been talking to Brian Colbert.
Good.
I thought that was gonna be a heavier lift than they made it seem like in our original Zoom meeting.
Well,
Right?
yes, they.
Heavy lift for the engineer.
No, for the DOT to find the 80%.
Yeah.
Yeah, they basically told us, no,
I mean,
it's
I
not gonna
almost fell
happen.
off my chair when they said they would, because it's like $4 million, so.
It's a lot of money.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. So last item, so a couple of weeks ago, Seth and I were talking, and, we're both feeling a little bit overwhelmed with what we've got going on right now. So, I'm recommending to the group that we stick with the projects that we have now. Move them forward, I have,
They made me babble on about priority setting, you already got it.
I thought it was fun.
Thanks a lot.
Alright, so this is not probably the extensive list. This is what I came up with yesterday in between trying to get the budget together for Monday. So I just wanted to go through the list. First let me finish what my thought process was. So take what we're currently doing, assign it out a lead and a backup, and then the lead and the backup kind of handle the project and bring in who they need. I don't think we need to get together as a group as often unless there's something we've gotta work out. Something that we need all of us to get on. So I was thinking maybe a meeting like every other month, or call a meeting when we need it. Obviously, when the HUD stuff comes in, we're gonna have to go on, right? But, normal everyday work on the projects could probably go on, without too much of this group meeting. So, thoughts on that, as you're all reading. Yeah. Yes, it should, yep. But I put you because you're the one that applied for the grant,
Yep. No, I got it.
but, we'll pull it, or you'll pull in, because you're gonna be taking lead on that grant. Who you need, and obviously I have, Chief Foss is one of the principals in the group too, so.
What was the signage study?
The who?
The signage study?
Yeah, the
Yeah, so-
wayfinding study.
So with our, money we get from Invest NH as a result of the 31 units in
Right.
Schoenberg's place, the city council appropriated most of it for the city hall project, and $100,000 for our parking, traffic, and wayfinding signage studies.
Okay, so they gotta get it.
So they I don't know if they go together necessarily, probably a different type of,
It's probably a different firm,
yeah,
but
different firm.
we can see.
But it's same
yes.
bucket of money.
Yes, yep.
Can we just start at the beginning and go down? the list?
Sure, let's do it. So Stanley, so I kinda have, Seth's definitely lead, and then of course, you know that, I've got Dick Lewis helping him out with that. I think we're good. Alright, so completion of the Whitewater Park, so obviously this is gonna be Marty with Niel's support, and this is really just the HUD paperwork at this point, and we'll definitely call this group, together for that when we get that paperwork. at the same time. So, the piece that I've been working on, I think we've talked about 800 times, is that pretty much every MOU, between the city and our partnership groups, needs to be redone or done for the first time when it comes to like the Partnership for Public Health and, Snowmobile Club. But all the other ones need to be redone, so I'm working on that. What I'm trying to get together is like a single document that has all the legal mumbo jumbo, and then like we do with an RFP, right? We have a single document that has all that legal crap for the RFP, and then attachment A is the specifics of, you know, what the MOU is with that organization. So I'm working on that, and with the various organizations or the executive directors of those organizations, so there's a lot of them.
Judy, are these new MOUs or are they
Yeah.
renewals and?
So, it's such a piecemeal, that some of them have a lease agreement now. Some of them have an MOU or an MOA.
Right,
Most of them are expired, and some of them have nothing and it's new, like with the Snowmobile Club, and that piece of city property on Chance Pond Road, that's gonna be new. The Partnership for Public Health is our, drug task force, if you will. They're taking over that organization, the Franklin Partners in Prevention, so we're working on that MOU.
okay.
So that's, a little bit different than the economic development piece, but, expired ones are the animal shelter, the opera house. I think the outing club is expired or close to be expired, and MCP is expired, so, those have to get done. So that's what I'm talking about there. Probably won't need to pull too many people from this group in on that. I'm gonna be calling the attorney in. So the next one is Safe Street Action Plan. That's our grant that we got from DOT, the $80,000, with our $20,000 match that was appropriated from the $310,000. And that's our, you know, our Tilton line to, Main Street line of Central Street. So that needs an RFP, which we thought we might put, can't take you anywhere. We thought we might put with the RFP for, you know, parking and traffic, but we may not. So we need to get that moving so that we can apply for the bigger bucket of money, which is the, implementation bucket.
So is that in coordination with the traffic study that we're doing?
I mean, you could, but we'd have to make it very clear that they have to keep their grant expenditures separate from their, you know, from the other expenditures.
Oh, they're
We
looking
could
at the
use the
same piece
same
of real
person.
estate. They're looking at the same thing,
They
right?
are, yep,
Are they in conflict?
Partly.
yeah, probably.
So the traffic and parking study is more going to be like bridge to bridge downtown.
Right.
The Safe Street Action Plan is all of Central Street. And that's, they're,
Tilton all the way to
So
the
no way to
bridge.
Main Street.
Main Street,
Yep,
yeah.
yep,
but so we can craft the parking and traffic study RFP to kind of however we want. And it's gonna say,
The Safe Street could be an overlay of the overlay.
it could be, yeah, so the
Okay.
Safe Street grant is very specific to, they're going to, the money has to be used to hire a consultant to come up with a plan to make that corridor safer.
yep,
So
They
they're
don't
looking
really
at
care about, they don't really
and-
care about parking or traffic per se. It maybe it will factor into safety, but it has to, it's safety improvement, so maybe the crosswalk's not in the right spot, or maybe there's not a crosswalk where there should be a crosswalk, or maybe they'll put
But
the
it
traffic
comes
lights. Yeah, that sort of thing.
So,
Sidewalks,
so the pedestrian portion of that.
yes.
Okay.
yeah, it's a bit of everything. So one's very focused on safety, and the other one's sort of broader focused on traffic.
I think we have a good chance for implementation grant on this too, which is also
Right.
80% funded. And this sounds disgusting, but this is the reason why, because we've had so many incidences of people being hit and injured and hit and killed in this corridor. So, yeah, which is sad.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's that. Alright, so then I have, the CPBG with Health First, which I hired Donna Lane to handle the
You know, you have
administration.
the hotel.
Hotel?
I'm getting there. Oh, the hotel, I skipped one, excuse me. So dealing with the hotel once they want to move again. So, you know, once they're moving again, so that's, you know, the two of you.
They were here last week again.
Were they?
Yeah.
I think they're watching what's gonna happen with City Hall.
Well, the city hall and with the work.
Yeah, for sure. So,
And the interest rates.
Yeah.
yeah, money's expensive right now. CDBG Health First, so I've got Donna Lane helping me with that. The Franklin Woods project is being recommended for funding. They rescheduled their meeting that got canceled because of snowstorm I caused. So it's, May, I think it's tomorrow, May 3rd. So somebody from Franklin Woods and Donna will be attending that meeting. So it's a 36 unit affordable housing, that's across from our elementary school on that side of town, I forget the name of that road. But across from our Paul Smith Elementary School on the west side of Franklin. And, they just aren't able, a new company bought it, we had our typical, you know, use up the equity people there before. A new company bought it and they wanna do the right thing for the building, but they can't make the number, or couldn't make the numbers work without this grant. So the city council authorized us to do this grant, in the January meetings, and so they are recommended for funding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so Municipal Services Director Hanson and I met with CDBG review team, essentially. It was another Molly that works with Molly Donovan, and then somebody else, Donovan was there. Basically walked through a few of the units. The units haven't been updated since the 80s. They're beat into the ground. What they're looking for is funding to essentially go in, patch or put new sheetrock on, all new flooring, new windows. Not a huge like reno, but a needed renovation. And when you do that over 36 units of that age, it's a lot of money. So they're looking for money to basically cover those costs. And hopefully what we'll do is keep it best they can.
Right, it'll save money for the people who live in there because they'll be able to heat for cheaper, and, you know, all the stuff that we want investors to
Who's the
do.
management company from Franklin Woods?
I forget too, I remember her face, but she's been there for a handful of years. They're a new firm, but
I
they're
dealt
keeping
with
her
a guy.
on board.
Yeah, yeah, I dealt with a guy who's actually the investor, when we did the Zoom phone call to pitch the project to, CDFA, so, I can find that out, but, yeah. So, Sunel's moving forward with that, so I have Jim and Neil on there. City Hall, Opera House, I know this is a whole group, and, you know, we've got the FBIDC leading the consensus building. But, you know, that's gonna be a project that needs to move forward fairly quickly. The city council did vote a couple meetings ago to have something in place or discussed before 5/31, so I suspect that we will be.
What does that mean? I don't understand what that means.
They want to be able to move forward with the project, so my understanding is they want to have some sort of meeting before 5/31 to, discuss how to move forward with the project. So I think that they're motivated to, get their piece done because they know the project itself is 2 years out after that.
Okay, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
I'm gonna make a suggestion that you do 2 lines here.
2?
City Hall Opera House,
Yep,
as you have it, dash planning, for lack of a better word.
yep,
And then another line saying City Hall Opera House / finance, and then you and I be on the financing.
got it,
Because you have to sell a bond, and I gotta sell, Chase Finance,
yep,
and others,
I like it.
as needed.
My take on the meeting on Monday is that people are ready for the conversation about some of the numbers.
Of course they are, yep.
Um,
Yep, they've been ready for a while, you know, we just had to give the architect a chance to come up with a final report, so.
That there was a whole host of terrible conversations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that guy saying it was $1.5 million to do the bare minimum.
No.
I mean, the very next person who talked said it was 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so, and then the building's torn apart everywhere.
Mm.
But, I mean, I didn't think that the breakdown was that terrible,
No.
right? Like 4 and change versus 2 and change. I think there's a lot of opportunity to get those numbers lower for the taxpayers.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
definitely.
can somebody circulate the slideshow?
Yes.
I haven't seen it, and, the Zoom was
That wasn't good?
separate.
What do you mean? You couldn't tell,
I
see
couldn't
that?
get on.
Oh, you couldn't get on?
I should have been.
We had people on Zoom, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Neil, I just stopped you.
Go.
The city council needs to understand that the assumptions that they're making about the, like, Gar Hall in for instance, right, that's gonna directly inhibit what the Upper House can handle,
Yes.
right? And so this idea of keeping Gar Hall as a museum, right, and like the woman said, museums only work if someone's willing to pay a ticket,
Right.
right? Having city
Nobody
council.
sees it now.
Right, exactly.
No.
So you're
Yeah.
holding down a quarter of the second floor for no one.
Right.
And by putting the city council meetings back downstairs, right, that doesn't make it any easier for the Upper House to do what they wanna do and
Exactly.
pay something.
And it also ties up my buildings and grounds department, because they have to set up breakdown.
Where
Well, this-
most places have a dedicated room,
Oh,
it's
I know.
just city council chamber.
I've been meeting in a lot of other places because of our cable group, it's 10 communities involved, and they all have it permanently set up with a permit, like, you know, this, and, you know,
Yeah.
It's so much easier.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, that's a specific.
does the city council understand that FBIDC is offering, I guess, funding to convene a series of focus groups with key players and citizens too, you know, taxpayers, to look at what should be done. And at this you might have 6 different topics, 6 different meetings, you might have organize the meetings by different groups. I don't know how it's gonna happen. I don't know how to do it. It's gonna take 4 or 5 months to build this consensus.
Mhm.
And that you may not wanna, authorize final design until then.
I agree.
Okay.
But I thought it was also consensus on how to move forward as far as getting the Opera House to a point where they can fund.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, so
Because we've already got
one
city
one
council
one of the,
consensus
one of the
about
focus
partnership. Yeah,
is on finance.
yes,
So we're gonna say, okay, a lot of this money can be used to go out and hire, for instance, a marketing consultant to tell us, what is the potential? Translate that into dollars, and then we do a business plan
yes,
that hopefully shows that, there's revenue there to support rent. But I'm calling rent, but it's really a share of the bond payment, okay?
yeah,
But, so that's one of the focus, and probably one of the last focus things we do. Because I just wanna make sure that people understand that this is a 4, 5, or 6 month process, that's all.
So that,
I think you gotta go to city council and present that, because there's a definite push to get in as fast as possible.
I was just gonna say that, so I think there's a,
We've talked about this timeline not matching up before.
I know.
there's a decent consensus, that something needs to happen fast.
Yep.
If people are sick of City Hall and Opera House being shut down, either it's a half-ass fix, or it's a full fix. Either one of those, I think the community wants to happen fast, it's just
Mhm.
which one, so I'm not sure there's a lot of consensus building over how's this gonna fund it, essentially, it's what are we gonna fund and how quickly can we move? I mean, it's,
We have to handle the building anyway, it's just how it's, I think the consensus building is about how it's gonna look with the partnership.
So you think you could go out, in the next month and get a $7.5 million bond?
I don't know.
Everybody's talking about bonds at every single meeting.
So, I mean, doesn't it strengthen your hand if
Imagine that.
we can say, here's the financing plan, and we expect that the facility can generate some revenue to help you pay the bond,
I agree.
and we expect that we can get some grants to reduce that even further.
So in, I think it was March 11th, but the second Monday of March, in my meeting with the city council where we talked about priorities and things, we get in pretty extensive into this bond process and city hall, and, you know, I think they've got their heads wrapped around the fact that the grants are going to come after the approval. Right, as we've been talking about
Probably.
last year, because we can't apply for community facilities until it opens up in January, right? So we can't apply for L-SHIP until it opens up whenever the heck it opens up, so,
That's wrong, I know, yeah, okay.
right?
This also, if, the issue is also always with the match, right?
Always.
Just knowing, right, if the city council makes some sort of commitment or vote on an amount that they're going to pledge, it may make it easier for us to go
For us
further.
to get the grants, because we already have matched.
Okay,
So,
So we do this,
we knew it, but
the economy
I
doesn't
mean,
work.
I know.
you really
I
have.
didn't expect the
There's
council
even-
to be excited about moving forward, I thought it was going to take a
No,
process.
we talked about this.
And we've talked about it,
We've talked about this.
I still think we need it.
The consensus building,
Mm-hmm.
the idea that I got was that the consensus building, will ask the community, what do you want your opera house to look like?
Mm-hmm.
As it was before, or do you wanna open up the balcony and have bigger shows, da-da-da-da-da?
Yeah,
And at what level are you willing to pay for that,
right.
right?
Mhm.
Without knowing the answer to those questions, any discussion is moot. I mean, it just is, you can't do any planning.
I mean, it's the same as any other vote, right? City councilors should be reaching out to their delegation or vice versa, to be getting input on these questions,
Right.
right? This is no different than any other vote. Is it a bigger impact if we get it wrong? Of course it is.
So what's the
Or if they
purpose
get
of
it wrong, it's not us.
the consensus building? I mean, that's just,
The purpose of the consensus building is that we had a fractured community for a while,
Mhm.
based on the fact that we had this $30 million bond, where people were throwing around numbers and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the positive thing about that was, there was an awakening
Mhm.
that there's a lot of things that have to be done in Franklin. And another positive thing is, at least from my standpoint, just looking from afar, there seemed to be some understanding that the City Hall Opera House was critical, okay? And this was a way to build consensus among a project that didn't fracture the community and, split into, different sides and all that kind of stuff. It's also a way to get, quite frankly, to get the kind of input you need. From a wider base than what the architect has been dealing with. For example, Dan Darling, speaking for his board, has some issues about the design.
Yeah.
What was the big issue you brought up? I can't remember, but he has some issues about some missing pieces.
Mhm.
That are really fairly simple.
right.
One was, I can't remember, the location of, I can't remember what it was, I read my, showed my notes. I just think it's gonna
If those answers are
Make
gonna
the
come.
community more knowledgeable, and making the community more knowledgeable is gonna make, he's gonna give the city council confidence when they vote on this thing.
And at some point, people are gonna say, are we gonna spend our dollars opera house
Mhm.
or roads? Which one's gonna have priorities?
Yep.
Are we gonna try to do both?
Mhm.
Are we willing to do both?
But
Can we
again,
only afford
our
one?
job is not roads. Our
No,
job is to get
but
more
I'm telling you,
revenue so
go
they
out to
can
the
do
public.
roads. Yeah. Yeah,
You can't say, no, we can't talk about it. I mean, it's not
right, I
obviously-
get that, but, yeah, but
Well,
we don't take on,
we
we're not
have
taking
to.
on the
We have
capital
to.
improvements of the
We
city.
have to remind city council that the decision to pave or not, the decision to build or not build roads is theirs,
Yeah.
period.
Right,
Yeah,
It's not,
we're
there's,
trying to generate more
you know,
tax revenue to help them with it,
right.
that's our role.
Yes,
It
no,
is
I
there.
know.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking when this consensus building study, when you go out into the community and
Oh, yeah, that's gonna be a piece.
looking for your priorities.
I will say, I think there's been a lot of people who have forgotten that 2 years ago, there was some consensus building. Through these conversations, the public came out in full force and said, save the Opera House.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The Opera House, unfortunately, has only gone downhill from there. No surprise there, right? No money's invested in it. What's gonna happen when it's crumbling? It's gonna crumble more. But there was a subcommittee of like 25 people, picked a bunch of city councilors on it at that point, and there was consensus building there with those people around the table, brought back to council, said, here's what we think it should stay, it makes the city hall an opera house, with maybe a little bit more given to the opera house, if we can squeeze our municipal end down to afford more to the community as a whole. And that's where the design's been based off of, right? So there was some sort of consensus building, there was a charge given by the city and the city council to the architect to go, hey, go design this and see what the community's yelling for, and here we are.
The major takeaways from those groups was getting city employees out of the room, right, to the best of our ability, as creating, as far as creating a place where residents can go to all of the checkout counters in one building, right, while reducing the city's impact of the operations of the Opera House. An attempt to improve seating, right, but not, it was never by much, right, because then you're competing with the Colonial, which was never the goal. And to keep the historical elements, like that was the three
Well, you
things.
missed one thing, you missed preserve the option that this building becomes a cultural center for the city,
yep,
so that some time in the future, if the city wants to create a municipal office building, all those spaces that the city occupies in the new,
yeah,
in the renovated building become places for artists.
and
So,
yeah,
right.
the architect definitely had an eye towards that,
Yeah,
didn't he?
I thought it was, I think the design is sort of creative.
It's very creative, and it's actually a safer, way to deal with the public
Yeah.
it's just, it's genius. I would have never come up with that, but some people have talent. So, yeah.
So
Okay.
tell me again what looking for by the 31st.
They wanted some sort of discussion by the 31st. I think really what it revolved around is the Opera House received a pot of money, from the county's ARPA funds. And that pot of money was supposed to be for for a piece of equipment. It's called, I call it a hood, because it's like a hood in your kitchen, but it's called something. Over the stage.
Yeah.
And then, some renovation of downstairs. So we've had a conversation with the Opera House since then, and they've asked the county if they could use it for 2 pieces of equipment. That will help, solve some of the stuff they need as part from the architect, so they can spend it on time by 9:30. I think we've covered the vote really, and I'll get consensus on that on Monday, at the meeting, so I think we're good there. I'm not sure that they're ready for a bond vote, but it did seem that way a couple of times. So we'll see how it But I do think the consensus building is gonna be important, because it's also important for the Opera House as a board to realize how they need to move forward in a way that makes them the money.
Yes, I agree.
And to bring on some consultants that can guide them. I don't know what the market is,
Right.
but evidently there's people out there that think there's a possibility of creating some additional shows.
I think the number one goal is we want to make sure the drama program in the school can still be handled without additional cost to the school.
Right.
And whatever the Opera House needs to do to bring in, or whatever we need to do as a city, so that they can bring in the money to fund their piece and allow that drama program to continue, is what I think everybody wants.
You know,
Yeah.
I agree with you, and if we go for $500,000 from CDFA a year from now,
Yep,
in tax credits to help pay for the Opera House, the key is going to be the fact that 450 kids a year
Yeah.
go through some program or other,
all
through
right,
that,
straight,
through
yep,
that program.
yep,
So
keeps them off the
Would it
street.
make
Yeah,
sense
I would
if-
think that.
sometimes in the next month, you invite Jim to go to the city council and explain what this capacity building is all around
Sure.
about?
So the council is aware that, we applied for the grant through you, because we weren't able to get a consensus from the council ahead of time. So they're aware of that, but I'm not sure they're exactly aware of what it means, because we didn't get a chance to talk about it at the council level. So, we could do that,
Okay. Later in the month.
yeah, probably June, like the June meeting. The May meeting is pretty packed.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just the way things fell. Let me write that down for you.
Yes, thank you,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Cool.
Bless you.
Yes, I think I'm done now, thank you. Alright, so we, with that one?
Yep.
I knew that one was gonna hold us up, I should have put it at the end. So we already talked about the parking, traffic, and wayfinding studies. I think we had asked Neil to help us with an RFP on that, so that's why I put Neil as support. And then, of course, Justin is Director Hanscom of the Municipal Services Department, who should be absolutely involved in any wayfinding study.
Yeah, he'll be involved in all of this.
Is-
All of those.
Yeah.
I have a question about parking and traffic study RFP. Is that our own RFP, or there's no funding restrictions to what we ask? Is that you?
For that,
For
for
that
that
RFP?
part.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Is it true that all three of those are together?
Yes.
Yes, but it might not be the same person we hire, is what I understand.
Hmm.
Is that right?
We're trying to make it easier, so like, you know,
Do I have a sub?
they might have some.
But same
But
project.
we're gonna try to put it with the Safe Street Action Plan as well, because it's the same type of person. Am I right on that? Same type of,
Yeah, and there's probably gonna be a traffic engineer involved with the traffic study part of it. We would also be looking at the safe streets
Yeah.
action plan part.
Well, is this bridge to bridge?
This part,
Yeah.
those three are
these three, yeah.
basically bridge.
Yeah. So should I put all of these on one line?
Wayfinding, wayfinding should be more, larger geographic area, should extend to almost the town lines, local Franklin side. But we can work with that. I mean, maybe the focus is downtown, so people, how to get to parking, how to get to the park, and that sort of thing, parks are all. But maybe we talk to them and say, add a couple signs on the other, west side, and up on the north end.
So should I put it on one line, or should they still be three separate? this is the land portion, clearly. So obviously got Marty and Neil backing up for, grants. And, trestle bridge that we just talked about that. So then we had talked about a facade and a placeholder, revolving fund, and I think you, called it a patient capital fund
Yeah,
earlier, so I could change that. And we had talked about the facade revolving fund too for the downtown.
you should,
Go ahead.
we've been talking about that forever, we've been
Yeah.
talking about incorporating, making it just first floor storefront facade improvements and signage, all those things. You're gonna have to make a decision, because we can't compete with ourselves.
Right?
So, we probably can't you have to make a decision if we're gonna, a year from, well, not a year from, next March
Yep.
is the deadline for CDFA tax credit applications. Are we gonna apply for a facade fund, or are we gonna apply for an optimist?
Right.
So that facade service is gonna, unless there's another source we can find, that's
So
good.
we should probably take that off.
Well, in the there is something that is just, the note should be not CDFA.
Or target CDFA 2026.
Right.
26, right,
Right.
pending.
Right. So like the Mill City Park line item, I mean, we're done until the next LWCM.
Right,
Right.
right, but it's still on our radar.
Right.
Yeah.
And I already have a project for next year.
Do you have, that's like.
That's
track
good,
from last
because
time.
Bill Gagus is waiting for us to apply for next round for land portion, he's very excited.
But that,
Get them all the way
that
up.
application's what, June, October?
No, that's
No.
December.
December, yeah.
Perfect.
So you got all the planning done?
I got as much as I need, I
Okay.
think, yeah.
A December and a June award,
Yeah,
so you're still talking 2025.
yes.
That's what happened,
No,
the last time, unless they change it.
We're talking a December 2024 application.
Yes,
Right.
and a June 2025 award.
Yeah.
No.
What? Yeah, they send it to the feds in May,
We don't get the money.
But you don't
in
get the
June, but
money
we
until
get the-
September.
and you don't get the
Right.
money until September, that's an
Retroactivity.
award,
Yeah.
not money. Jeez,
Okay.
that's getting rough.
Stuff to happen.
Yeah, alright, so I'll change this next one to say patient capital fund,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have our lovely Cumberland Farms, so I'm starting to get pissed at, we need to eat shit, pop.
Our
But yeah,
role in that really is the future of their existing,
exactly.
right, and try to get them to make a corporate donation,
Yeah.
to turn that into a pocket park.
I'm fairly
Seth is not,
certain they're
thinking
not.
about that.
I don't think they will either. I mean, they spend so much money now, and it's such a mess. I mean, look at Irving, I mean, they're
I
done,
mean, we can most certainly
Yeah.
ask.
Maybe it's patient capital investment.
maybe,
So,
they're
So if they go to
international
sell it,
corporation.
Or LWC.
I mean, it's their pre-existing
Yeah.
contract,
Yeah.
not informed pre-existing use, right?
Yeah, but almost guaranteed they will put a non-compete clause in there,
Oh,
so
yeah,
they don't want another gas station across the street from their gas station.
That's
Right.
good.
yeah.
That's
Oh,
good.
yeah, no, it's good, so I mean, I'm.
Marty just, we
Are
could
they
go
gonna do
for
that? They're not
land,
gonna do
land
that.
and water conservation money, make it a park.
Yeah, you can make it a 6F acquisition and demolition
I
and
mean, that's
signage.
gateway, that would look
It is
great.
gateway,
Make
and
a
there's
great
been
little
more
pocket.
accidents right there, so I really wouldn't
Little
like to see
pocket park.
anything there, yeah.
So there's two more,
I think that line item though was the work that we're doing internally on.
yeah.
Getting them to
On,
get
on,
them,
on
yeah.
our property.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was, but.
Oh,
the-
Marty
the
and
task
I are
force
gonna
is-
deal with this
yeah.
at night, we're not gonna tell anybody.
oh, jeez. Okay,
Don't
so,
drive me into this.
so the two that I added when Neil was talking earlier is the food co-op and the testimonial project, I forgot about those two.
Do we wanna do testimony?
No.
Good. Food co-op,
Yes.
it's simply an application.
Love it.
Food co-op, we can do an application to CDBG planning grant.
And
25
that's,
grand,
yeah,
no match.
yep. Let me know when you want me to bring that to city council, so to do the
Yeah.
resolution. Don't forget, we set the public hearing 1 month and the resolution's approved the next month. Yeah. All right, so just, reach out to me. And whenever you need support from me or the city council, just reach out to me.
Well, we haven't agreed with this meeting schedule, we still have.
I know you haven't, I'm just, so food co-op, I'm putting Neil in charge, and Marty. How's that?
Whatever you want.
Thank you, Marty. That was so believable right there. So, all right, so thoughts then.
I'll start. High level thought is that many of these items, although we might have had the idea or been involved in the beginning, or we might just want to be well informed, whatever the reason, it doesn't concern economic development.
Okay.
Like, I would say that the parking study, the traffic study, the wayfinding study, right? Unless something needs to be worked on with a grant, and one of us has that expertise, that's a city project, and the city should be going to residents and businesses in that affected zone and do some sort of survey. That's not an economic development.
But the parking issue impacts our ability to attract a hotel.
And we solved that. That issue came up. That issue had
It hasn't been resolved.
that issue for the hotel has been most certainly resolved, or
It's not
partially.
finalized.
Partially
Yes.
resolved.
We gave them options.
Traffic and parking is economic development.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not wayfinding, and maybe not some of the other Safe Street action plan, I don't know. But let's think about, we were all gung ho at one time about redevelopment of the Stanley Mill parcel. And all of a sudden, we're saying to ourselves, maybe not. Maybe not until we know what the traffic study says, and the parking study says.
But it's not our project. Do we care about the results of it? Of course, sure. Do we wanna know about them? Yes. But like, Seth is more than capable of handling the project without input from us.
All he's asking for is my input on the RFP.
I'm not saying,
Yeah.
so then, I mean, maybe he doesn't agree, but Jim and I don't have to be here for that. And you guys can work on that together.
Yeah. The whole point of
That's
this is
the whole point
everybody's
of this.
working on.
Yes,
their
so I
part.
agree.
Yeah.
Some of this doesn't concern all of us.
Right.
It's not the biggest bang for the buck.
Okay,
However,
yeah.
so I think those items should be filtered out. However, this group was a part of $13 million over 9 years, and disbanding our meeting last is not appropriate either. We're just doing that because of political pressure.
No, we're not doing that for political pressure. I know the timing seems like that, but we are feeling overwhelmed.
I'm super sorry. That's a city problem. You guys need more people. You should ask city council for more heads.
We should, we have,
I know.
and we will. But yeah, so,
So I'll just say bluntly, I'm at a point I can't take on anymore. I can't keep up with my work now. So I told Judy, I'm gonna start dropping out of some meetings, these ones, other ones, whatever they,
Sure.
I have to say no at some point, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm one person doing way more than one person should be doing. So that's what Judy, I think you try to do,
I did.
is say, okay, well, let's keep working on these, let's focus on them and work through them. Because this group has been successful, we've got grant money for almost all of this stuff, but now we need to process it and make it,
Right.
make it
Implement.
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 Which
That
takes
takes
way
time.
longer than running the grant.
Yes,
Isn't-
and then when we get together here, we come up with more projects and add to the list,
Mhm.
so, and I get, when we do meet and check in, not as often as every 2 weeks, we will be adding projects likely, but
In that part,
at this point, we gotta get something done.
Okay.
I mean, that part makes sense, but I don't,
So-
I don't think meeting less is
So just this morning,
appropriate.
we were talking about, the capacity building program and the need to find a facility. And Seth just happened to be here and happened to jump in and talk about it and added some thoughts. And that usually, if it was just Neil and Jim, without Seth, I think it's important, even if we leave it to an agenda, stay on the agenda and make it 1 hour. I think it's important that, we do this. I can see we spend too much time, running into 2-hour meetings,
Yep.
but, not that I like them that much, but I'd like to hear from Seth more than once every 6 months.
No, I wasn't saying 6 months, okay. I get that Seth is a very good devil's advocate, I get that, that's a
I mean,
good
we
point.
got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, basically 1 hour, 12 minutes please. No, we don't have to go through everything
Yep.
unless, well, we've taken care of the priority setting, okay, for now. The next meeting might be exclusively HUD.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
We
Yeah.
can certainly, we can do more. I could have sent you yesterday, when I was thinking about today's meeting, I could have sent you my notes saying, I need guidance on food co-op, testimonial, patient capital, land and water conservation 3, city hall, opera house planning, and traffic study RFP. I could have sent you that in an email, and, the whole group would have seen it and said, okay, Neil, those are all priorities, or drop the testimonial and do the rest, and, I might have a question for Seth about the traffic study RFP, the timing for it or something. But,
So you wouldn't call Seth on that since he was leaving the project?
But we could definitely
oh,
implement
yeah, I
these
would
things
now,
and do it that
I
way.
would now,
Mhm.
but I just, face to face, all these corporations that thought they were getting away with murder and lowering their real estate costs post-COVID by allowing working at home, now they're saying, you're part of a team, get back in here,
Yeah,
at least 1 or 2 days a week.
I agree.
So,
Yep.
maybe it doesn't have to be every other week, I don't know. I think it has to be every other week, unless there's really no agenda, and that's your call,
As needed.
as needed.
That's all I was talking about, as needed.
Yeah.
But maybe a consistent meeting I was thinking every other month, but,
Yeah, at least once a month.
at least once a month? So what about once a month then as needed? As soon as the HUD stuff comes in, boom, we're gonna, have a meeting. Cause we have to get it done. Right? So there's some stuff that's gonna push a meeting, and then some stuff that can wait.
I mean,
If the agenda was smaller, so we could get the priorities done in an hour. Because I do agree that the meetings are too long. I like to see you guys, but they're too long. And if maybe to alleviate some pressure for certain people, right? We can say ahead of time, hey, you don't have to come to this one, right? 'Cause, once construction happens, I'm gonna miss the next 3 meetings.
Right,
Yeah, I just won't come.
right.
and as much as I love to hear Seth's update on Stanley Mills and everything,
Don't have to do it.
we don't have to, what does he need from us?
Right, that's what I'm talking
It's
about.
not what
Yeah,
we need from him, it's just,
yeah,
out of curiosity, how all these things in implementation.
yeah.
But that doesn't add to what we're trying to do. What does he need from this group to make his job better in the project?
Yeah, can we do that less frequently than 2 weeks? That's what I'm asking.
And having the agenda tighter.
Depends on the agenda. What I
I get-
suggested is that say, every Friday before the following Thursday. You said on an email, and said, you have any other, if you have a meeting on the following Thursday, not every Friday, every other Friday.
Yeah.
Do you have any agenda items of importance to you? And then you collect from everybody and you can decide whether or not to do it.
Okay.
If my agenda item is, I need clarification from Seth regarding the RFP,
Yeah.
that's not the reason for me.
No.
If it
All
is,
said, yeah.
I'm at a crossroads in determining where we should go with such, and I need input, that is a reason.
Mhm.
Same with Marty,
Exactly.
same with Seth,
I think that's what I was getting at,
yeah.
but I thought we could do it every other month, but it sounds like we can do it.
It might very well work out that way.
Yeah. Okay.
On one-on-one basis, where we can make input.
I think we're all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
It's
I
just
think we are,
frequency.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, so, all right, so I'll update this list, send it out, and we'll implement for now the Fridays, every other Friday thing, and then if you don't need to be here, you don't need to be here. Okay? But in the meantime, stuff
Good.
like you just said, you need some input from Seth on RFP, that doesn't need this group. So
Right.
please contact, each other like regular business. So,
Yeah.
okay, because I think we handle too much regular business at this meeting where it should be just idea generating
Yeah.
and problem solving. That's what I was getting at.
I mean, I think we need to remember that, let's get these things finished, these traffic pipes, these traffic parking studies have been on the docket for a year. And yes, I understand that falls mostly to me, but I'm telling you, when I get my
You don't have to
priorities.
say anything else, you don't have
That's all I have.
Yep.
Anybody have anything else?
Seth, is there anything we can do to help?
I'm helping with that.
Yeah, not to meet every other week.
Okay, great,
What was that?
thank you guys,
Yep.
appreciate it, so we'll, call the meeting,
Hold on, so I got the text 20 minutes ago. Lakes Region e-bikes is closing, their last day is in Franklin is Saturday. It's a bummer.
that is a bummer.
It wasn't the market though, usually.
No, it wasn't.
No, I've been talking to them throughout. I don't think that's public knowledge, though.
It's on their Facebook page.
Okay.
So it is out. Okay, all
Nice
right,
people,
good, yeah, they are
Good
great
people.
people.
good people.
So 10:38,
Okay.